call back to order the regular meeting of the Lake Forest Community High School District 115 Board of Education meeting for May 10th, 2022. May I have a roll call, please? Tiana.
Mr. Burns?
Here.
Ms. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Here.
Dr. Schabacher?
Here.
Ms. Zinzer?
Here.
Dr. Vinson?
Here.
Mr. Noble?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Now I would like to invite all of you to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. So moving on to the President's report, thank you for joining us tonight. It is always nice to have members of the community and our staff community with us. Last week was Teacher Appreciation Week, which is an annual tribute to educators across the country. In Lake Forest, with the help of our administrators, the LFHS APT, and even the mayor, our staff experienced a week filled with gestures of gratitude. So despite this being the start of a new week, I did want to take this opportunity on behalf of the District 115 Board of Education to express deep thanks for the commitment and care our teachers bring into classrooms at Lake Forest High School every day throughout the year. Each person in this room either was or is a student, so we are all well aware of the importance and tremendous significance of quality teachers. Our schools in Lake Forest, Lake Bluff, and Knollwood communities are fortunate to be filled with truly exceptional educators. So to all the teachers at LFHS, I would like to deliver a heartfelt thank you from your school board. I also wanted to take a moment this evening to share a brief update with our community. As you may recall, earlier this year, this board and the Illinois Association of School Boards withdrew our affiliation with the National Association of School Boards. And on April 10th, the IASB, along with 21 other founding school board associations, signed a resolution to officially form the Consortium of State Boards Association. Illinois was elected to serve as chair of the COSSBA, Transitional Steering Committee, which is the governing board, until January of 2023. COSSBA is a voluntary, nonpartisan national alliance of state boards associations. It will strive to provide member-focused information that is powered by collaboration and driven by shared commitment, shared resources, and shared responsibility. The goal is to support, promote, and strengthen the 22 founding state school boards associations so they can provide excellence in local school board governance, resulting in access to high-quality educational opportunities for all students. And with that, I'd like to move on to my favorite part of the agenda, which is the All-In Award. As a reminder, for those who were not present for the past few meetings, as part of the Student and Staff Spotlight, we have created an All-In Award, which will be awarded to members of our student body, staff, and community in spirit of our students being all in every day. On behalf of the board, Superintendent Montgomery, and Principal Lennart, I would like to announce the winners of the All-In Award at this time. Our awards tonight will go to two groups of students that have combined their passions with education to compete in statewide competitions. The first group includes Kate Johnson and Laurel Curry. Approached by Mr. Brian Rump, the two young ladies approached Mr. Brian Rump, the LFHS math teacher, to support them in their efforts to compete in the Illinois Junior Academy of Science exposition. They both had Mr. Runt for math analysis earlier in their high school careers and were looking for a teacher to support them in their quest to pursue medical research through statistical analysis, a passion that both students share and showcase through their engagement, not only in their science and math classes, but also in their activities such as Women in STEM and Science Olympiad. Kate and Laurel's research began with preoperative patient data from a local hospital, where they analyzed to find a correlation between established blood loss and procedure duration based on patient characteristics as well as disease attributes. Their essay details their statistical analysis and their findings over 29 pages and is titled Predicting Blood Loss, Procedure Duration Prior to Radical Prostatectomies. Am I saying that right, Laurel? Okay. To date, they have qualified for the IJAS state competition with their award of gold and best in the category of health at the regional competition. The state competition for both the paper and poster session took place a few weeks ago. Kate and Laurel were interested in potentially pursuing their research further after the IJAS competition. It is exciting to see two students who began with a shared interest in scientific research and statistical analysis find a way to apply those skills to a real-life situation where they are potentially creating solutions that can be used in medical care. Congratulations to Kate and Laurel. We wish you all the best in your future endeavors. And at this time, I would love for you to come up and join us and receive your award and have a picture with the board. I should also say congratulations to your parents. The second group, in January, Eddie Fury, Sid Jindal, Ella Cunley, and Ashwin Krishnaswamy sat down with Mr. Gregory Simmons, Lake Forest High School's social studies teacher, asking him if he would support them in their love of economics and help them to prepare to compete in the Chicago Federal Reserve economics competition. Through many hours spent outside of class studying different economic policies and implications, after working tirelessly, the team prepared a 15-minute video presentation on the state of the U.S. economy and a policy prescription for the Fed. After the video submission, the team learned that they were one of the top 3 teams in their division, the Bernanke division. As a result, they participated in a live Q&A in front of a panel of judges that are experts in their line of work. They were asked very pointed questions about the current state of the economy and how the Federal Reserve should respond to them today. After seeing the students in action, a spectator stated they felt much better about the future of our economy. We are so excited to see our students pushing for more experience and information so that they can work to create an action plan for our future economy and to have an impact on the world around them. A special thank you to Mr. Simmons for his work to support the students outside of the classroom and to help them feel prepared to take on such an incredible challenge. Congratulations to Eddie, Sid, Ella, and Ashwin for their placement as finalists, and we wish them all the best in their future endeavors. If you would please come up for a picture. So, Aaron, I'm going to turn over, what? Yeah, okay, all right, so I'm going to, first of all, I would like to thank all of our awardees. And if you would like to leave at this point in the meeting, you are welcome to do so. You do not need to stay for the rest of the meeting. Congratulations to all of you.
Congratulations.
Okay, I will now turn it over to Dr. Erin Lennart to introduce our students for the Student Council update. So, Erin.
Thank you, and actually, I can't believe that I'm giving the May report, and I think the weather finally changed, but I think it went from winter to summer. I'm not sure. I was out there throwing the first pitch I had the ball in my hand, and I was lobbing the first pitch towards somewhere near home plate, and for softball, and I was like, it feels like it's 100 degrees. So really privileged to be here again, and I think I've finally figured out how this principal's report should go, 8 or 9 reports in. I actually have the student report that will go first, and then I also have invited more awesome voices this time from some of our gifted staff members. So my report is a little bit longer, but get excited, because I will not repeat all the celebrations that our students will give, and our social studies colleagues will come, and they're going to actually talk about curriculum design, methodology, and even then how we balance teaching some of our controversial issues. And they have to do that while still maintaining the depth and breadth of learning expectations for their courses. So really excited to hear from them. So with that, we would get started with Joey Nassar and Johnny Theodore in their final student report and a year in review.
Thank you for the introduction, Dr. Lennart. Good evening, everyone. This is our final student update. So we're just going to give a little 2022 year in review. So I guess we'll start with homecoming and the pep rally. We wanted to make it from like the fall all the way through now, and some stuff that's still to come. So we're going to start with homecoming and the pep rally because that's probably the biggest event that we started the year with. So just going to be a lot of pictures in these slides, and we'll kind of glimpse over everything so we don't talk for too long. But yeah, we started the year with homecoming and the pep rally. Student Council was lucky enough to put everything on for the students. We had both a Spirit Week, a dance, and a pep rally. So at the bottom left corner, you can see me, Johnny, and some of the other Student Council executive members running that. We generated a lot of school spirit. And then if you go back really quickly, sorry. Yeah, then at the top and the bottom right corner, you can kind of see the dance. Talk a little bit about the Spirit Days.
Yeah, we also had a Spirit Week around this time, the Homecoming Spirit Week. I think personally the highlight was probably Class Distinction Day, of which we have a picture. In the top right, there's Latin class with the togas for the seniors, which had Toga Day. And it was a very successful Spirit Week. Great way to start the year. So next up, you guys see here we had a ton of fall sports. We did our best to find a picture of every single one. I think we got it. If we missed one, our apologies. I myself was a member of the football team this year. It was really an incredible experience. You can see on the right, that's what the stands were looking like for pretty much all our home games, besides maybe a couple towards the end of the year where it was raining and snowing. But the support we had out there on the field was incredible this year from the whole student body. We all noticed it. It pushed us to play our hearts out. It was just a great season that ended pretty well in our opinions.
Yeah, a lot of success in the fall, especially coming off of COVID, a time where a lot of student events weren't happening as much. So to have the football games and other events like the soccer games and some of the other sports was just exciting to come back to that. And then moving into Halloween. So we celebrated Halloween pretty greatly this year with, again, another Spirit Week. So the two main things we did was door decorating contests and dress up in your costume day. In the top and some of the bottom, you can see some of the best decorated doors that were the most festive for Halloween. So that's one of the biology teachers' rooms, and then we had the ed tech studio and by the front desk that were some of the best decorated doors. And here's me and some of my friends dressing up for Halloween. It's just really exciting to do stuff like that in the school, just make the day a little bit more fun.
So kind of breaking away from the timeline, I guess, this slide is solely dedicated to the theater and music. They were working all year They did a Midsummer Night's Dream earlier this year, and then they recently, just I believe last week, did Newsies. And then the band and the orchestra were working hard the entire year, doing a great job, and they really accomplished a lot this year, and it was really cool to see.
Again, winter sports is kind of a similar idea with fall sports, a lot of school spirit. Basketball, yeah, again, like we've talked about these before at previous meetings, but just kind of wrap things up, see all the sports. I think we got all the sports on here. Yeah, it's a lot of school spirit with sports, and everyone was super happy to be back.
Yeah, winter season was definitely great too. I was on the basketball team as well, and that was quite the experience. It didn't really end the way we wanted it to, but I wouldn't trade that season for the world, and it was just a great time and a very memorable season to end my career.
Next, we had our Winter School Spirit Week. So three of the days we featured here is the Pajama Day, which you see on the left. We had no backpack day, so students had to find another creative way to bring all their books. So you can see like a microwave, a student brought their books in, and then we had someone dress up as like Santa with like his bag of toys as the books, and then that was me with like a little plushie that you can also hold books in, like a dog. And then we also had Ugly Sweater Day, and that's Miss Clegg, who's also our leader of student council, dressed in her ugly sweater. So it was nice to have a lot of spirit during the winter time. Everyone really showed out with their outfits. It was super exciting to see.
So then we had the talent show. This was quite the event. I got to see it personally, and it was pretty amazing. So many talented people at our high school, and it was just really cool to see everybody doing their thing. Also, more in general, I'd give a shout out to the band boys, pictured in the bottom left. They were amazing at the talent show, but they were amazing all year, going out to pretty much every single sporting event that I know I played in. It was really cool to see them there. They did a really good job, and in my 4 years of high school, I've never seen anything like that.
Also, a big shout out to Donati's, who helped sponsor the event, and also all the people working backstage and the crew members and the people who were filming to make sure it all runs smoothly. Next up, we had TEDx and the ELS game. Those are two more recent events that happened in the springtime. But again, as I mentioned, I think in the last board meeting, a lot of people say the ELS game is the best day of the year. I would definitely agree with that. You can see from the stands that it's completely packed. I mean, we didn't have as many kids at any event this entire year, including the football games and the basketball games, as we did as the ELS game. Again, some super exciting moments with that kid hitting the half-court shot, which got the crowd really rowdy. And then TEDx is LFHS as well. That's just an opportunity that like very few, if any, other schools have. And we're just super grateful to have that opportunity for people who want to participate in that. We could see like just filming and all the kids who participated. Again, the band boys, as Johnny mentioned. So it's just really great to have these opportunities at Lake Forest High School.
So now, getting into more current times, we have spring sports and Scout Nation Barbecue. Scout Nation Barbecue, which was just a few days ago. That was really a successful event as well. You can see in the bottom right corner, the whole lacrosse team eating some barbecue after their win. That was really cool. You can see in the middle a picture of me and 3 of the guys in the track team in the sunset, wearing our crop tops. It's been a heck of a season. Probably some of the most fun I've ever had playing a sport. And we've got sectionals coming up this next week, conference in a couple days. I think we got a picture of every spring sport going on this slide as well. There's a ton of them, a ton of sports every season. And yeah, it's been a great season so far.
Lastly, we had last thing for student council was some fundraisers and service. Here was the support staff luncheon, where we got to serve Mexican food to all of the workers at our school who are very underappreciated at times. So here's just a picture of us running thank you cards and them getting their food. We also had Student Council Appreciates, in which we brought cookies to all the health service members. And then for our senior breakfast, we also incorporated an aspect of service with like give a breakfast, get a breakfast, where we had all of the seniors bring in cereal boxes in order to get their senior breakfast in the commons. So it was just really good to support Project Full in that way and just bring support to the community for everything that we have. I also grabbed this slide. New voter registration, you can see me featured a couple of times in this slide. That was only a few weeks ago, but everyone 17 and 18 was able to register to vote. for the upcoming midterm elections. So you can just see like me taking the oath in the right slide, as well as some other students getting registered to vote, which is super great opportunity we also have at Lake Forest High School.
And then College Decision Day. This is a really cool day for all the seniors. Everyone wearing their college stuff to school. Me and Joey got a picture on the left. He's going to Boston College. I'm going to Virginia next year. So got some great pictures that day with a lot of people. It was really cool to see where everyone was going, and I guess it was just pretty full circle to see everyone that we've grown up with and gone through high school with, making their decisions and heading off to college.
For example, at the top we have like the Ivy League picture that 3 students were able to get, and then in the top right corner we also had the volleyball team all together taking their picture with all of their college shirts on, which is just really fun. And it's just, yeah, again, as Johnny said, really full circle to see where everyone's going for the next 4 years. So then kind of what's left. The school year is coming to an end. We're going to be graduating in only a couple weeks. But this week is the last week of AP testing. I know Johnny and I have had a lot of stress that's going to be soon relieved from AP testing ending. We also have the Wellness Walk on Monday, May 16th, as well as prom next week. Seniors' last day of school is coming up in a couple weeks on Thursday, May 26th. And then finals for seniors and underclassmen in late May to early June. And then kind of between the end of school for seniors and graduation, we have the senior barbecue on Thursday, June 2nd, right after graduation rehearsal. And then, yeah, graduation June 4th. So then just, I guess, on behalf of Student Council and the student body, we'd like to give a big thank you to both the board and the administrators who sit and listen to us every single month, to the student reports and corresponding with our opinions. We greatly appreciated going to every meeting and having this opportunity. And as it's ending now, we look forward to coming back in the future and just seeing how our school progresses and moves forward.
Yeah, I'd certainly echo that statement. I'm going to miss this. And I'd like to thank everybody here, Dr. Lennart, Dr. Montgomery, everybody else for everything they've done for us.
Yeah, I think that's all we got. Thank you.
So if you two just want to remain standing for a moment, we do have a special surprise for you, so I'll turn it over to Chair Zinser.
Okay, does this mean you're not coming back on June 14th for our final meeting of the year? You'll be
That is
off
good
and
news.
on to bigger and better things, right?
Some by the pool, maybe a little bit.
Or down at Lake Forest Beach or Lake
Yeah.
Bluff Beach. Well, I will say, and I know I'm speaking for everyone, we will miss you. We have enjoyed you being a part of our meetings, and we love the perspective of what's happening inside the building, what's interesting to the kids. And I have to say, I think that the Student Council was really, really creative this year. I think coming out of COVID, you really stepped it up.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So don't go anywhere, because the board is going to adopt a resolution in honor of you two young gentlemen. And I would like to read that to you, okay?
Thank you.
Whereas Joey Nassar and Johnny Theodore have faithfully represented all students of Lake Forest Community High School District 115 as Student Council President and Student Council Vice President, respectfully, during the 2021-2022 school year. Whereas Joey and Johnny have thoughtfully and thoroughly updated the Lake Forest Community High School District 115 Board of Education about student activities and priorities each month during the 2021-2022 school year. Whereas Joey and Johnny have demonstrated tireless creativity and resourcefulness through their hands-on planning of student council events during the pandemic, including the innovative and memorable first ever Prom 2021 and Homecoming 2021 celebrations on the front lawn of Lake Forest High School. Whereas Joey and Johnny have, during their 4 years at Lake Forest High School, balanced preparation in student council, multiple athletic teams, school clubs, and other organizations while maintaining outstanding academic standings. Whereas Joey and Johnny have consistently brought student voice to district-wide strategic initiatives. Whereas Joey and Johnny have led the Lake Forest High School student body by example with hard work, humility, resilience, empathy, positivity, camaraderie, and genuine care for others. Whereas Joey and Johnny's contributions to Lake Forest High School life are recognized and greatly appreciated by the District 115 Board of Education and the District 115 school community they have served. Therefore, be it resolved that the Lake Forest Community High School District 115 Board of Education expresses for itself, as well as for the parents, guardians, students, staff, faculty, and citizens of Lake Forest, Lake Bluff, and Knollwood, its gratitude to Joey Nassar and Johnny Theodore for their steadfast work at Lake Forest High School as student leaders. Be it further resolved that the District 115 Board of Education wishes Joey Nassar and Johnny Theodore only the best as they begin their college careers at Boston College and the University of Virginia, respectively. Finally, be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be entered permanently into the minutes of the Lake Forest Community High School Board of Education, Lake Forest High School District 115 Board of Education. So don't go anywhere because we are going to join you here and hand you your awards, okay?
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank
I
you
really
so much.
appreciate that. Thank you.
So I'm going to turn it back over to Erin again. We're kind of volleying this.
Oh, I love this. It's like it's awesome. So thank you, Joey and Johnny. It's really been a privilege to get to work with you this year and just see from the start of the year until now how you trained a new principal to come into Lake Forest and love it the way that you guys do. So thank you for that. I have to tell you that Boston and Charlottesville are very lucky indeed to have you two joining them. So with that, I'll start my principal's report, which will be my piece pretty short because I did bring along some guests. A few celebrations. We did have Newsies, of course, and it was absolutely amazing, and I know that you mentioned Newsies as well. But from the set to the students to the choreography, I see we have Mr. Waniger here too. It was absolutely show-stopping, and I've used my jazz hands in here before. But if you got a chance to see this, I don't think that jazz hands will suffice. It's like jazz hands times a million. And our first musical on stage in 3 years, right? And it was certainly a return to be remembered. We had another fabulous return with our NSC art show. We hosted it last month, and I was just so proud of our art department who stood up to host this show. And they really gave it kind of an art festival feel. And it was just great to see the talent across our region. It was great to open our doors to our neighboring schools and students. And it was really awesome to celebrate the art community and the talents of our scouts. Also on the horizon, we have honors night, we have prom, we have graduation, so many other awesome things still to come. A lot happening within the walls of our classroom and outside the walls of our classrooms as well. The list could just go on and on. I know that I've been beating this drum a lot this year, but on the heels of our Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week, and I hope you all noticed, even in the All-In Award, we had students who were dreaming outside of the walls of Lake Forest High School, but they went and they found teachers who said, okay, I'll go along with you in this journey. And I think that that speaks to the teachers, because they'll go along with our students to see them fulfill their passions. And it's just amazing to hear those stories as well. But I do have to say a hearty thank you to our parents and our boosters, Applause Foundation, PALS, and APT. As the year is drawing to a close, it was just awe-inspiring to go to the foundation luncheon in just this beautiful venue, to speak at the APT luncheon, another beautiful venue. There's a theme here. And then also celebrate this really dynamic Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week because of all of these parent organizations and the generosity of the district. They really are giving their all. In my first year at Lake Forest High School, I've just been really thoroughly impressed with our parents who help celebrate, they help support, and they help tell this remarkable story of our school. And it's really unlike anything I've ever experienced, because this is my first year at Lake Forest, but this is actually my 7th year as a principal. And this partnership that I've experienced here, this is all that a principal would ever dream of. So just a hearty thank you to our parents who show up and who've shown up in every way possible. It doesn't go unappreciated, and it will never go unnoticed. All right, thank you. All right, and so I do have the special treat of our social studies department, and I'm very excited to welcome them. And they're going to be giving that overview of some curriculum decision making, and then touching on the teaching of what some might consider to be controversial issues. I do want to tee this up a little, because recently I've heard about and even made a statement to an online publication about what is being falsely labeled as an assignment in one of our classes. It's important for the public to know that when you have concerns about any assignment your student has been given, we would ask that you reach out to the teacher first. They are master teachers. They are thoughtful, and they are open to dialogue and discussion about their work because they're passionate about it. For that reason and many more, we are all very lucky at Lake Forest High School to have them, and I'm a very lucky principal indeed. At Lake Forest High School, sociology is an electives class, so it's taken by choice, and the current narrative is that our students were asked to take a survey on white privilege as an assignment. This does not accurately describe what our students were asked to do. From a study of privilege, one of the basic units of study in sociology, students were given a copy of a survey created by the first privileged thinker, Peggy McIntosh. She is cited directly in their text and in that unit of study. So they were given a copy of it. This worksheet was never taken up for grade. It was never handed in. There was no grade attached. Our sociology students were simply given the actual primary source example and then asked to work with their peers to collaborate around all kinds of privilege, ability privilege, religious privilege, and others. Students were given a source, asked to discuss, confirm, negate, whatever. There might be some people who are debating whether privilege exists, and that's fine, even acceptable as an outcome with data to support it in a sociology classroom discussion. But it's just been really frustrating to hear and then see the misrepresentation of what is happening in our sociology classroom, really to the detriment and the devaluing of an outstanding teacher and employee of this district. This is why I was both thrilled and I was humbled and continue to be inspired by this staff when this department, our social studies department, wanted to address our board directly so that we might all walk away with an understanding of the level of professionalism, cautious intelligence, and humility with which we approach our curriculum. So with that lead-in, I welcome our social studies department chair, Stephen Dunn, and our social studies faculty members, Cheryl Kyrus and Cindy Collier.
there was a moment there when you guys were talking with your computer, and I was really worried because I said, we didn't bring a computer. Like, we're not prepared at all. We thought quite a lot, but maybe not enough. All right, so I am Stephen Dunn. I'm the head of the Social Studies Department, and I've been working at Lake Forest since 1998. I've been in this role for 8 years. And I'm here with two fantastic teachers, Ms. Cheryl Kairos on the right and Ms. Cindy Collier here on the left. And I'm going to talk about our courses a little bit. I'm assuming you all know quite a lot about it already. I'm also going to talk about our mission as a department, and then Ms. Kairos is going to talk about how we tackle challenging topics, and Ms. Collier is going to talk about some of the principles that guide our work. All right, so most students take 4 years of social studies, which is fantastic. However, they don't have to take 4 years. They really could knock it out in 2 years. You know, you take 1 semester of global studies is required to graduate, a year of U.S. history is required, and a semester of a social science. And so as you can see on the bottom, the state of Illinois also has some requirements as well. They require that students pass a U.S. and Illinois Constitution test, which we do in our U.S. history course. And we also have a civics requirement that I'll talk a little bit more about here in a second. That was passed by the state a few years ago. So I doubt anyone can really read the details here, but you could find this visual in our course guide. And what's apparent, even if you can't read all the details, is we have a lot of courses that students can take. There are a lot of different pathways that they can take to meet those graduation requirements. Typically, though, students start out with world history and geography as 9th graders. They choose among 6 different courses, typically as in 10th grade. We have African American Studies, Modern World History, Modern Global Issues, and we have 3 APs. We have AP European History, AP Modern World History, and a lot of them take AP Seminar. Most students will take US History as juniors. There's an AP option for that. And then we have this huge amount of social science courses that they can take. Most of them do it in grade 12. And so we have behavioral sciences, social sciences, we have civics, AP comparative government, AP US government, we have economics, AP micro, AP macroeconomics, we have psychology, we have AP psychology, we have sociology, and we have AP research, which is part of an AP capstone program. So there are a lot of great choices, and we pride ourselves on this for sure. You could go to the website and read our mission statement. We developed it about 8 years ago as a department when I started this role. We spent several meetings one spring really talking about what we thought was important and what we wanted to stand for. And in short, basically, we think, and we truly believe this, that we're preparing students to be good citizens. So what does that mean? Well, every course, we have skills that we're trying to cover in every single course. We call them thinking skills, or sometimes they're called reasoning skills. We want students to learn how to analyze, to take things apart, to understand them. We want students to evaluate, to make informed judgments. We want them to synthesize information, take a lot of ideas and put them together in new ways. And we want them to be able to do this in ways that transfer to other contexts. So whether that's work, whether that's civic life, whether that's their personal life, these thinking skills are part of being good citizens. We all know that there's huge amounts of information out there. We know that we can watch TV, we can watch cable TV, maybe I'm dating myself. We can watch, I probably am, aren't I? You know, we can get on the internet, we can do mainstream news, we can do social media, we have all different forms of information. We're bombarded with it, really. And so we want students to learn how to access information, we want them to learn how to analyze and evaluate, and we even want to give them opportunities to make it themselves. Writing is a huge thing we pride ourselves on. Students do a lot of writing at Lake Forest High School in social studies. That's not, from what I understand, necessarily characteristic of every high school around. It's a big part of what we do, and it's about analytical arguments. And then finally, we know that the world isn't just the written word. There are all sorts of other ways that you have to be able to make your case. And so we've basically emphasized multiliteracy skills in our classes as well. About the civics. Civics, some schools do a standalone civics course. We embed civics standards within multiple courses. And basically what that means is students learn about government institutions. They learn to engage in simulation. They engage in simulations of the democratic process. And as Dr. Lennart mentioned earlier, the state standard is that we discuss current and controversial issues. And so just for us, just so you know, we don't just pick them out of the sky. The issues that we do are issues that are connected to our content, and then we examine them in disciplinary ways. So in a world history and geography class, you'd look at the Russian invasion of Ukraine because you study states and you want to understand conflict. You know, in a government class, you would look at Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey because you study government institutions, you want to look at models of judicial interpretation. In sociology, you would look at privilege because you study groups. That's what sociology is. And you would want to look at stratification or something like that. So, kind of get emotional. One of those issues is a big deal to me. So, and then we do traditional service projects as well. And we aren't telling students what they have to do. What we're trying to do is give them opportunities to know how to make a difference. All right. Ms. Kairos. That's the big one.
The big one. Okay. Hello. Okay. Hi, I'm Mrs. Kairos. I teach currently U.S. History and AP U.S. and Comparative Government at the high school. And for discussing challenging topics, there's really a few phases of us doing this. At first, we look in the curriculum and we kind of decide what's going to be the issue that we're going to need to address. And from there, it's very carefully thought about and planned out. Again, like Mr. Dunn said, we're not just picking these issues out of the sky. They're very clearly connected to our different disciplines, like government and sociology and psychology, and also the state standards, college board standards, et cetera. So when we're thinking about a controversial issue, we're putting it into those lenses. And then typically we're not planning these lessons in isolation. We're working with colleagues both inside and outside of the building to make sure we're gathering multiple perspectives when putting together these lessons that specifically deal with controversial issues. This slide kind of talks about how we set up our classrooms to talk about these issues. It really starts at the beginning of the year when you first get the kids in the room and you are trying to build trust in a positive classroom environment so that students feel like they have a safe space in which to learn about these issues and not be judged. We typically co-create ground rules to have productive discussions with the students themselves, and these are typically posted for them to see as well as revisited throughout the year. And we prepare students for different ways of, like, we might have different types of discussions. It might be more of a structured academic controversy. It could be a debate. It could be a Socratic seminar, and we're preparing them for these different types of discussions. And sometimes they're not oral. Sometimes they're written. Sometimes we're asking them to gather different visual tools like political cartoons. So we're preparing them for all of these different ways of engaging in what could be considered controversial topics. Lastly, when we're thinking about actually having the discussion or class activity surrounding a controversial issue or what could be construed as a challenging topic, typically we're giving students ways, kind of agency in how they want to engage. For instance, this semester in my government class, we discussed several of the core documents that the U.S. Government and Politics AP curriculum wanted us to discuss, things like Federalist Papers, the Constitution, various Supreme Court cases. And when we were doing these discussions, I gave students multiple ways in which to engage. They could talk, but they could also fill out a Google form reflection that only I would see. And then again, if we're assessing based on any of this, which we aren't always, but if we are assessing, then we typically are asking students to choose among reasoned arguments and decide which argument they think was the best reasoned, not for their personal opinion. So that's just a little bit more of background about how we plan both as teachers and then as facilitators of the discussion, as well as then what we do with the student work around these issues. And now I'll hand it off to Ms. Collier.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Cindy Collier. This year I teach sociology, civics, and AP US history. And I'm going to be talking about the principles around which we stand on, principles on which we stand and on which we support that guide our instruction and our curriculum. Mr. Dunn already mentioned this because he did talk about the work that went into our mission statement. And that work focused on fostering educated and engaged citizens. And so that is certainly a goal of ours, to give students the skills and the knowledge to engage in their communities around whatever issues inspire them. We also stand with principles that are defined by other institutions that affect our work, like the College Board, which defines our AP courses. And some of the principles that the College Board stands on, we agree with, right? We agree that students should be enabled to develop as independent thinkers and draw their own evidence-based conclusions. We do expect students to analyze multiple points of view. We expect them to analyze different perspectives from their own. We give them the freedom to make up their minds about what they think and believe about those perspectives, but we do expect them to be exposed to them and to consider them. We also foster an open-minded approach to histories and cultures of different people in a variety of our courses. And as professionals, we will listen and respect every student who engages with evidence and shares their point of view. We also strongly support your Board of Education statement that you articulated so well with the principles of One Lake Forest Community High School. We agree that we should create community classroom spaces that encourage understanding, empathy, exploration, and celebration of differences. And we also strive to create opportunities for students to listen, understand, and share their diverse points of view. As a social studies department, it is our task to address controversial issues and prepare students for engaging with controversial issues in the society around them. It's not a task that we take lightly, and we definitely approach our work with considering our purpose, our procedures, and our principles. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for coming and presenting on the social studies curriculum. I know that I have a number of departments who would love nothing more than to have the opportunity as well to stand before you and just, show off the outstanding thought that goes into the work that they do every day. So thank you all for leading the way, for being the lighthouse group, and for doing so enthusiastically. We so appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, Erin, and thank you for being here tonight. And I would like to reiterate what Dr. Lennart just said. I think that it's a wonderful opportunity for the board to kind of get inside the building when you come here and bring that to us. And through us, you're bringing it to the community, those that join our meetings in person, those that watch the video after the fact, and those that we run into in our day-to-day lives representing the school and the district. So thank you for being here, and I hope, like you said, Erin, that in the future we have other departments that will come and share. We welcome that. And now, please feel free to go enjoy the rest of your evening doing something else if you'd like. And I mean no disrespect to Dr. Montgomery, who is up next with the superintendent's report.
Listen, it is okay. Do you want to go right now? You can. I tried to limit the report to less than normal. Okay. You put them in a bad spot.
No, I didn't really give you a choice, but I wanted it to sort of feel like a choice.
Okay, I will speak quickly, I promise. So I did edit this because I was so excited about the presentations tonight, and I thank you profusely, and I'll talk a little bit about my viewpoint on how we're going to address challenging topics at the end of the report. So thank you very much. The topics tonight will be my overview of the decision of the book reconsideration appeal, Portrait of a Graduate update will be very brief, spring break 2023, and then a quick shout out to the Education Week editorial that was just released, and then talk about next month's report. So quickly on the book reconsideration appeal, you may recall that following a thought review process begun last fall and facilitated by members of LFHS Book Review Committee that Dr. Lennart set up in the district, there was a determination on the book Genderqueer, a Memoir, that it would be retained in the general holdings collection of Lake Forest High School, and that any students under the age of 18 would need to obtain permission forms from a parent guardian to check out the book. Earlier this spring, I received an appeal request regarding Dr. Lennart's decision. The review committee's consensus was that the book could serve as an important resource for students who are members of the LGBTQ+ community and for those who may be struggling to come to terms with their gender identity or sexuality. The review committee also found that the book matched the age, ability, emotional maturity of the student body at Lake Forest High School that is representative of the school's diverse student body and society, and that it is culturally timely and relevant. Therefore, in accordance with Lake Forest High School library material selection guidelines and reconsideration reconsidering procedures, I am reaffirming Dr. Lenart's decision to retain Genderqueer, a memoir, in its general holdings collection. The appeal process stops at my level and does not go to the board, so I want to say publicly that I am reaffirming her decision. The appeal has been rendered to the person who has issued it. There was appeals from both sides of this, one requesting that I become less restrictive, one that I would make a decision to become more restrictive. And I just want to say publicly to the board and any viewers or in the audience, both virtually and in person, that the final decision of the school district is reaffirming what Dr. Lenart decided. And I also want to thank Aaron for putting this process into place and to making sure that we are honoring the thoughts of all of our community members and parents, and we are taking a careful look at the district level of all of our materials. Quickly on Portrait Graduate, we finished our 4th meeting, and there's 4 meetings total, so we are essentially complete with the design team process. Some of you in this room were engaged in that process, and I couldn't be prouder of the work that was done. We still have some lifts to do to get to the final product, but I will tell you that this experience, hearing from the community, and most importantly, our students, that is the voice that always resonates with me the most. What happened as the meeting progressed, or as meetings progressed, the student voice became more and more vocal, and that's who was really providing the synthesis of the information. And I will tell you that I think many of us were in awe, if not all of us, of the student voice, and hearing it was something that gave us great hope about the future. About the next steps, we will be releasing the final portrait in the coming weeks. And that will be shared through many different mediums as we finalize the feedback that was given at that meeting, and then moving forward to actually completing the graphic itself. I also met today with Patel for Kids to talk about strategic planning, because it is my commitment that this fall we will begin strategic planning in both 67 and 115. And I met with key personnel today. They will have a proposal for me to see next week, and I will be providing that to the boards, both boards respectively, in next week's update at the earliest and the following at the latest, for us to take board action in the June meeting to get everything up and running for the summer for a fall kickoff of that work. It gets less and less exciting as we move from the portrait work to the strategic planning, and then the action planning at the very end, which is really staff and admin, is the least exciting component. So it just means it's time to do work at that point. So thank you for your input, and thank you for the board's support of this process, because sometimes visioning appears soft and unnecessary, but I think it really is the core focus of providing direction and a North Star for the work that we need to do. Spring break 2023, this has been a hot topic issue this week and previously, and tonight we are submitting the committee-approved 2023-2024 calendar for board approval. Based on the survey results, we are recommending that spring break be moved from March 17th through March 24th to March 24th through 31st, 2023. So you are going to see a couple items revolving around the calendar tonight. Here is a snapshot of the parent and guardian results, as well as the staff results. This was a quick and dirty survey, folks. So I did not have, I didn't put my PhD statistical analysis on this. We didn't send it to a statistician to write the questions. I needed quick data to see if this is something that resonated with folks or not. And we are competing with wants and desires and needs from the staff and parents from District 65, District 67, and District 115. That is one of the pleasures and also curses of being able to work collaboratively across all 3 districts. tonight I will be asking the board for the change or to approve the change. It really comes down to staffing in many ways, and also that the fact that Lake County moved their spring break to the week following, or the fourth week in spring break, which puts a great deal of stress on our staff members, particularly in 65 and 67, of how they are going to be able to maintain childcare during those weeks when they are on off spring breaks from their own families. I am a huge proponent of our staff being able to take care of themselves. They get obviously predetermined breaks, and them being time, or being afforded time, particularly in the spring break, to spend time with their families will always weigh out heavily with me as a leader, as I am a parent of 4, and during spring break I want to be away and I want to spend time with them while I'm still able to, before they go off and conquer the world, which my Avery Grace will. She's my baby. The other ones, we'll see. I think actually we'll all conquer the world, but she is the spunkiest of them. Okay, finally, and just a quick note about an article that I wrote, and I want to tie it to what you heard tonight. So I wrote an article, and it was released through Education Week for an opinion piece on the 4 stages of becoming a leadership artist. I'm not going to bore you with that content. What I'm going to say is that we are faced with a nation that is becoming more and more intrigued with what's happening in the classroom. And as you heard tonight, the staff, the leadership at the building and the district level, and this boardroom will have very candid and honest conversations with you about any topic of interest that you have. We are a partnership with our community, and providing that feedback to you is something we're committed to do. And if you have questions, all you need to do is ask. So you call, you email. We will go so far as you can see that we have instructional leaders here tonight saying that this is the first of several. We want you to know what we're doing. We want to educate you, and we want to answer your questions. What I am not willing to do as a leader is to engage in social media mongering or trolling that is coming from all facets of the world we're living in. That's not how I'm going to play. So if you want to engage in honest conversations with us, we will do so, and we will answer anything that you want to know about or wonder. We may not always agree, but we will be transparent in the way we're addressing it. And I want to give a great deal of credit to the Social Studies Department for coming here tonight to having this first conversation. I think it's going to be the first conversations of many. We are committed to engaging with our community, but we're going to do it in a way that really promotes candid dialogue that illustrates opposing points of viewpoint in a way in which we're actually willing to listen to the other side of any argument that's presented. And that is something that I would hope for my children and all of our children in Lake Forest and Lake Bluff and Knollwood, and we will do that through our own demonstration as adults. So we will be leading the way, and we're going to do it in a way that really is going to hopefully engage in a positive manner. I'll get off my soapbox for a moment. I think I blacked out for a moment. I'm back. That's how passionate. That's why I wrote this, and that's how much I'm committed to doing this work together. That doesn't conclude. Next month, we didn't do a State of the Schools, but what I'm going to do is a mini State of the Schools next school board meeting that has a year in review, much like my leaders in front of the room did a summary, a year in review. I'm going to try to do that in a condensed version myself, to hit the highlight reel, see what's happening, and where we're headed, and then we will have a full State of the Schools this fall or winter. But I think it's appropriate, given everything that's happening in the timeline of the school right now, instead of just thrusting a full State of the Schools and making more people come to another meeting. I am going to package that with the help of Melissa Oakley and the team to provide you a year in review at the June Board of Education meeting. That concludes my meeting, and please go home. And thank you for being here tonight.
Before you leave, I just want to say something. When I first joined this board, I had Dave Burns' role. I was the board liaison to the parent organizations. And it was really interesting for me as someone who's lived in this community for almost 3 decades. I've been involved in the schools in this community for over 2 decades. And I found myself in a position as a new board member, where I was present at the parent organizations, and I felt all of a sudden that in certain conversations, it was us and them. And I don't believe that for a minute to be what this board feels or who we want to be with our teachers and our staff and our families and our students. All of us in this room are here because we care about our kids and we care about our community. And so I am so pleased that you were here, and I really think that the detail you gave us was so informative, and I hope that people who take time to watch that weren't able to be here tonight walk away feeling like we are all together. We are all working for the same thing. And I think that's what you were trying to say in your message too. So thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing, and I really look forward to more of that from other departments in the school.
Jenny, before Steve, please. One.
I told you to go home.
As a parent, one of my jobs is to listen, and one of the most enjoyable things over the last 20 kid years is to hear my kids talk about their teachers at Lake Forest High School and what they mean to them, and the intellectual curiosity that that you have spurred in them. So I know you gave a very short presentation tonight, but in those 20 years, I can't thank you enough for the wonderful things you've done.
Since I've gotten to talk a couple times, I just have to echo all those things. I'm so impressed with all that. So it's a place I graduated. I did not attend very often, but I did graduate. And I joke that this is my penance for that. So, but I dearly care and appreciate all of what you do. You provide both my children and others. And I've never had an interaction where I didn't see you guys putting the kids and the thoughts and the school and all of that first. So I don't care what the noise we hear outside, and there's a lot of it, and some people are right and some people are wrong with it, but it's crazy. But I think for what we have here, I just look at all of you as individuals and what you bring and the talents, and from seeing Paul at every football game, just seeing you guys care to be present in their lives and ours and making a difference. So I just applaud you guys and continue to do what you're doing, and I thank you.
One last comment. Sorry, I'll try to be quick. I was fortunate enough to be part of this Portrait of a Graduate, and I appreciate that you brought it up, and I'm not going to spill the beans, given that it hasn't come through as to what it is. But I know, Mr. Dunn, you were at least one of those. Appreciate you being there. And, I'm more of a math and science kind of person. So there's sometimes a thought that social studies is names, dates, places. And you guys, it was just so exciting to see how you presented what experience you're creating for our kids, for our students. And I'm not sure if you planned it this way, but I don't think you did. But it dovetails so well into the concepts we discussed as a Portrait of a Graduate, because it wasn't just about the content, it was about the skills, the softer character elements that we want our kids to be able to graduate with. And again, I'm not going to spill the beans with what those are, but it was just so spot on that I really appreciate that you're taking social studies well beyond just names and dates, and what it really is about the people and their experience and how they connect or sometimes don't connect and interact on these subjects. So again, thank you. Sorry to keep you, but yeah, thank you very much.
Now we'll be like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and say, go home. You two need to go celebrate. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, that's right. Okay, at this point in the evening's agenda, this opportunity for public comment will be limited to comments about this agenda and those items only, and please hold all other comments until the following opportunity, yes, there is one more, for public comment later in the meeting. So at this time, if there is anyone that would like to address the board on topics of tonight's agenda, I would ask you to step to the podium at this time. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our committee reports. And I will start with Dewey Weinbrenner on the Education Committee.
We met in April and had a pretty thoughtful discussion of the boutique aspects of the high school, some of the offerings that we're able to provide students that I think are unusual for a school of our size. And looking ahead, how we can continue to foster that in a fiscally responsible way. We also had a discussion of the early stages of an action plan around our One Lake Forest high school statement. So I look forward to more to come there as well.
And then Dewey, the metrics. So one of the things that I came onto the board, Sally drafted me to do, was to get our metrics done. And there was a part 2 to that, which was basically a bridge between the education metrics that are used operationally and then what we have at a high level from a board communication perspective. So I've had the opportunity to kind of bring some of those ideas back. Jordan and I have, he's the district and district's metric guru. So we've been talking about outlining some of those things and bridging them from one to the next, using some of the models that are in operations. And we will look to present that to the board in workshop next month and just share our ideas and see how we can kind of bridge that so we can do a little better than just simply a top-level number, but show some of the visions to operations and some of that. So that is work to continue, and we'll share with the Education Committee and the board next month.
And you can keep your finger on your microphone because we would like a report on the Finance and Ops Committee.
Well, that will be short. We got everything done I think we needed to get done, and so the new budget is in, and we'll vote on that tonight, and or amended, I should say. And we will come back and reconvene probably, August or September? July. Thank you. Yep, so we'll have a meeting there that'll kick off the beginning of the next year budget cycle and some of the other things. So, yeah, there we go. So that's it.
Okay, Sally Davis with the Policy Committee.
Policy Committee has not met. I don't know that we will meet before July 1st. Tiana, do you have any opinion on that?
Press issue 109 came out yesterday, so.
So we'll be meeting before then. But in addition, I want to thank Dr. Lennart for sharing a policy that came from her previous school district that I've shared now with my counterpart in District 67 that we would also like to add to our next policy committee discussion. This is the second time Dr. Lennart has brought us something. She also took us across the finish line with the One Lake Forest statement, and I love that partnership, and I love the opportunity to see best-in-class opportunities that are being shared from other districts. So thank you for that.
Okay, John Noble again. Ed Red, please.
Yep. So in April, we had the opportunity to host a kind of a legislative update. And what we did was we kind of pulled together our tri-district group, which was 65, 67, and 115. We extended this invitation to a few other folks. And the purpose was really to bring kind of a understanding of where we are today, what we've done with our priorities across the different districts, look at some other types of things. In my report, you'll see the agenda, what we covered in about an hour and a half, and some of the attendees. And so I just really want to call out and say thank you so much to Michael Hernandez, our board attorney, but also gave a considerable amount of his own time to help us and lead through some of these discussion points, as well as Zach Messersmith from IASB, Bridget Peach, Executive Director of EdRed, and we were kind enough to have Julie Morrison, our state senator, Sarah Doobie, who is a staff of representative from U.S. Representative Brad Schneider's office. Rebecca Jenkins made a nice visit, and their board president, of District 70. And Mike Lubefeld was kind enough from District 112, Superintendent, and then our usual suspects from 65 and 65, 67, and 115. What we talked briefly about was the mandate process, the reform process, PTEL, TIFs, and a big topic that we talked about was the waiver law process and how we can effectively try to improve our circumstances as we try to request greater local control back to the districts. One of the items that will come forward, and again, I'll share this next month, is some draft ideas about where our legislative priorities would go. But one of the things we were talking in general terms was the IDA funding deficit. It currently is supposed to be funded at about 40% from the federal side, and we see about 13%. But that's not even necessarily to us, that's to our state proportionally, and then we get less of that. And so it's a big deficit. It's roughly about $3.5 million that we are getting maybe 10, 12%. So it is definitely making choices for us in terms of constraints and what we can do as a district. And so part of the goal is to figure out how we can go forward with that initiative and others. We highlighted a couple things that have been achieved, and you'll see that in my report. There was some laws that were actually passed and signed by the governor recently, and so you'll see those, and that was one of the items that we talked about and how we went through that process, how we got that done. And so Tiana and Melissa and some of the others helped kind of organize the day and how we could do it, and it was very positive, and we look forward to doing a few more coming, as well as helping craft what our future priorities would be and where we go forward with this. So thanks to all that made it happen, and that was it. So.
Can I add to that? So I know I'm sort of the John Noble fan club, but you took us waving our arms around for many, many years and saying there ought to be something done, to dragging into this room the people who care about what we have to say and actually have the power to do something about it. And more importantly, you had done a lot of the pre-work to give hard thought to what we wanted, and you actually gave concrete action steps and put them in front of the people who can actually do it for us. So I am in awe of you taking us sort of talking amongst ourselves and waving our arms and turning it into something that you brought our elected leaders to, and you put in front of them the here's how to get it done. That I can't overstate how impressed I am with the fact that you've taken this district from being somebody on the sidelines who's waving our arms, and I keep using that expression, to somebody who's actually a thought leader and actually coming up with a path forward in a way that I don't think our elected leaders can ignore. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. I won't embarrass you any further. Okay, John Benson, do you have a True North update?
I've provided the update from the Superintendent, Dr. Schneider. You have that in front of you. Most of the meeting was spent discussing strategic planning and an executive session discussing Dr. Schneider's salary and compensation. I'd be remiss, however, not to highlight that Lake 467 Cherokee Elementary and Deer Path Middle School were both recognized for their efforts in educating students and in promoting, to quote the superintendent, and promoting belonging, engagement, and learning for all students together. I know that our community provides exceptional learning opportunities for students with educational challenges, and it was a pleasure to see them recognized.
Thank you, John. And David Burns with the Parent Support Organizations.
All right, I'll try to be quick. Things are starting to wind down with some of these parent organizations right now. And there are some schedule conflicts with me trying to get to some of the meetings, so I'm trying to gather as much data as possible and also attend as many meetings as I can. For example, today there's the booster meeting, which is happening tonight, so I couldn't make it. But they are tonight voting on the outstanding student athlete awards. And these are 4, and I wanted to make sure it was clarified for you guys and the public. Because they spend a fair amount of time on this, both the mechanism with which they do the voting, which I won't go into that detail, but also the number of students that they're selected. So it's 4 people that they select, 2 females and 2 males, for these student athlete awards. or outstanding student athletes that go on the wall of fame. And I think a lot of people think that that's almost all athletic, and they wonder why some of these other in there. The boosters only pick 4. So there's lots of other awards and lots of other groups that contribute to who's up on that wall of fame. So it's not just the boosters club or anything like that. But they do pick 4 student athletes, and there's a pretty rigorous, very rigorous process that they kind of analyze even as a board to figure out, is this the right thing? And they're continuously making improvements on it. So they're going through that, that process tonight, which I was not able to be at. They had the Booster Bash recently and was successful by raising over $60,000 net of their expenses too. So that wasn't just revenue, that was net of their expenses. So very grateful for all those who helped with that. Bless you. And this is a couple of these I don't want to try to repeat because Dr. Lennart and our student council reps went through some of the stuff. So just a couple items that the APT partners on is prom coming up on May 21st, not this weekend, but next, I believe. Senior barbecue on June 2nd. Again, APT is partnering on this, and they just had their new board, old board celebration just last week, and I wasn't able to make it, but I understand it was, and Dr. Lennart was there, so I heard it was a great time. The foundation, they had their luncheon and also raised, interestingly, just a bit over $60,000 as well. And one of the big upcoming events that they're partnering with, which is a key partnership that they actually kind of helped found, was Pitch Night. And so the first real test of that will be in class on May 12th, just in a couple days. And the, I don't say the winners, but the ones that qualify from that will be part of the main event, Pitch Night, on May 20th at 7 p.m. in the Raymond Moore Auditorium. So encourage people to go and watch that and support what will certainly be some great ideas, and we've already launched some of these into real businesses. So these are not just, silly concepts. Some of these are real business ideas. So that's it.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, Tiana, I have a question for you. We have one consent agenda item that I have a board request to move it from the consent agenda, which I know is our prerogative. I'm wondering, should I push that to after we complete the consent agenda, or is it something we can talk about during our action items? Or is there not really, does it not matter at all if we do it before or after?
You can do it before and after. I would recommend for consideration, you go through the action items as listed, and prior to the consent agenda, there's a motion to pull that item and then discuss it and vote at that point, and then move into the consent agenda that's modified with the one absent or one less item.
Okay, thank you. All right then, may I have a motion to approve the final amended 2021-2022 budget?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please, Tiana?
Dr. Schabacher?
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Ms. Zinzer?
Aye.
Dr. Vinson?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve the Olson Transportation 2021-2020? Yes, we'll get to that. We have to first make the motion. So may I have a motion to approve the Olson Transportation 2021-2022 contract renewal?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, now we can have discussion on this item.
So I understand from the memo you provided, and thank you very much for it, that it remains a very difficult situation for us to secure the bus services, and I'm fully appreciative of that. I think one item which continues to come up, and I know you have been notified a few times about this, is the idling of the buses before pickup, to the point where even community members complain. And my understanding is, if I read the contract correctly, that we're actually directly paying for the fuel consumption. So I'm asking, again, I think I asked the same question last year, is there a more effective way of preventing the additional cost of fuel burned for buses standing for half an hour, 45 minutes, just idling?
Yeah, I really think, honestly, it's going to come down to us all being good community members. So I think it involves the staff members taking notice that the buses are idling. I think it is. I have gotten some emails from community members themselves that have noticed the buses idling. I think that's the partnership that we need to make sure that we're communicating with Olson is communicating with their drivers. Now, keep in mind, we've had a tremendous amount of turnover in drivers, so that message needs to be continually kind of reinforced. And I think I've mentioned it before, we don't necessarily know that they're idling unless people are willing to share with us that information. So I would encourage everyone to continue to do so. And hopefully then we can take care of this issue.
But may I just ask, and it's really an honest question, is do you then, when you get these reports, are you going to do you call Olson and ask what's going on?
I do. I communicate directly with Kyle Olson, the dispatcher, and I've also had conversations with some of their upper management.
And is there an opportunity for us while we're doing this report to add a clause that if they continue to receive these, that there's a penalty associated with that? Because they're burning our money, literally.
I think the difficulty would be is enforcing such a provision, right? So if I'm enforcing a provision that has a penalty clause based on an observation that I actually don't have evidence of directly, I think could be difficult. Certainly we could ask that question of legal, but I'm guessing that would be a hard one to wrap our hands around.
That is a somewhat unsatisfactory answer, right? So, but, okay. At least I think it needs to be, because, again, I'm counting, but besides the environmental issues and the health issues, there's a real cost aspect to that. And I think we do have an argument there because we're paying for the fuel.
So I would recommend that, well, Jen and I can have a conversation with Franzik to see what our options are above and beyond this contract, and then we can report back what feedback they offer.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I actually would like to make a comment on this just because it's somewhat new information, because we are concerned with the rising cost, obviously, related to transportation and fuel itself. We're going to see some significant increases in our transportation fund. I just wanted to inform the board, we have formed a mini task force with Lake Bluff 65 and also 67. Mike from our office will be working on that. I think they're meeting starting this week. But to look at some efficiencies that might be gained, one thing we're going to look at that would be a change for this community might be moving to corner stops versus somewhat now we reset the stops every single year based on the specific ridership. Corner stops are more efficient, and also they allow sub-drivers the ability to know the routes in a more efficient and quicker manner. So we are trying to work together as a group to see what we can do. Also, we are looking specifically between 115 and Lake Bluff 65. Sorry, 65 if I'm spoiling, spoiler alert. But we do share routes with 65, so we're looking to see what we can do to further share routes, which effectively cuts our prices in half. So that is a big efficiency and a big cost savings if we can get the timing to work out. So we will be working on that starting this week.
Jen, I'm going to belabor this one. I have a habit of doing that. I'm sure that the buses are idling because people are cold. That's what we do occasionally at home. Sometimes we run the car to get warm. So if there's a cost-effective solution that we can offer Olson, something to put in the bus to keep the driver warm, when they don't need to run the bus, I think we should, as a district, consider doing that.
Yeah, I think there's, it's interesting, and I think Marcus is accurate to some extent. They are idling sometimes when there's no need, when we're in some mild spring weather, which is more concerning. Obviously, we do make exceptions when when we're below freezing or there's high wind chills or things of that nature. But we have had some reports during what I would consider somewhat mild spring weather.
Okay, anyone else? Tiana?
Just compliment to looking into the efficiency abilities there. I don't know. I'm not even used to the concept of house pickup, so that's.
Okay, Tiana, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Dr. Schabacher?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Dr. Vinson?
Aye.
Mr. Weinberner?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve the designated level of authority for construction?
So moved.
Second.
We talked about this last month, and I know that there were then some recommended changes to this, which I think the board felt made a lot of sense and would prevent any slowdowns in the project. Are there any questions or comments from the board beyond what we've already addressed? Okay, in that case, Tiana, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Dr. Vincent?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Dr. Schabacher?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
May I have a motion to approve the district consolidated plan?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Okay, I know Jenny Sturpin brought this to the board, and Jeff, do you want to just give kind of a high-level overview for those that are here with us tonight or who may be watching?
Sure. So the Consolidated District Plan, it's through ISB, it's through the state, and it's a way to really streamline the federal grant funding. It's one large, very large application that the entire building admin team, I think, worked together on to apply for all of the various grants. So a lot of work went into it, and they're bringing it to you tonight.
And quick question. So in reviewing that, it looked to me like when I actually had to go back and look at some of the ESSER ones, it looked similar. It didn't tie our hands in any particular way in terms of national guidelines. It was just effectively more of a true consolidation. Did you find anything else other than that, or is that's the expectation?
That's the expectation. And year to year, it's fairly similar, whereas ESSER was a very, hopefully, one-time only, whereas you're going to see a lot in the consolidated plan of repetitive pieces year after year. So yeah, a little bit different.
Yeah, I had a similar question. Is there any downside in doing that? I couldn't gain that from the document, so.
It's not a choice. So if we want the federal grants, we've got to do it. So all upside.
Thank you, Jeff. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, Tiana, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Dr. Schabacher?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Dr. Vincent?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve the amended 2022-2023 school calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Don't give me that look.
No, I put it in the board report, but, or
Yes.
the superintendent report.
Right.
Just a quick reminder, we're moving from the third week to the fourth week. So we're moving the spring break 1 week following what we originally scheduled. In case you're wondering, a great deal of work is falling on Dr. Lennart and her staff and the teachers to try to make sure that we have those students who are going to be going on the original week, particularly our senior trips, how we will be accommodating to them with reason. What we are not doing is giving a 2-week vacation. So if you go on spring break the third week, we're going to support you, but there will be assignments that will need to be done in the fourth week, and Dr. Lennart is working with her teachers and her team to make sure that we are supporting those kids.
So I had the opportunity to have a wonderful conversation with Dr. Lennart, who you are absolutely right, is working hard to try and be as supportive, which is your nature, and I am grateful for that. As a parent of 3 students who had senior spring break, it is a very important milestone in their 4 years at Lake Forest High School, and I know from firsthand experience that it is extremely common for families to make a non-refundable investment more than a year in advance. So I just wanted to say thank you, because I know you are working hard to respect how this change is impacting those individuals. And I know for you very personally that honoring our seniors is important, and you don't ever look to take anything away from them. So I hope that families who are impacted by this will appreciate the district's efforts and will also understand the overall rationale behind the decision.
Matt, could you just one more time, I mean, I know you spoke briefly to this, but I think it's really important to understand the significance why we even asking the question, because I do in principle agree with that we shouldn't make those changes on a short-based notice, right? That just causes too much uproar and trouble and extra work for in this. So why are we even considering this? Can you explain that one more time? Because I'm not sure it became totally clear in your remarks earlier.
So the original conversation was stemming from staff concerns in District 65 and 67, particularly with their own children in opposite or on opposite weeks than when they are off for their spring breaks. So
and when did that change occur? I mean, is that it just really was kind of like sprung at us as a surprise this year, or?
So this is first year. For
I have personal experience here.
Can Jeff or
it's really odd. I mean, most years we have, my brother-in-law is a teacher in Crystal Lake, and we line up well with their spring break most years, but occasionally there's a vagary of the calendar where we don't, and it's happened last year or this year was one of the first years. So, and that it may have flowed forward. So it's an unusual event. We had been consistently lined up in the past. I don't know why it flipped, but it did. And so I respect the decision to allow staff to have the same break week as their kids. It makes all the sense in the world.
And so I want Jeff to build on it a little bit from what Dewey added, just the next layer about Lake County.
I think your question was about the timing of it. That why was the timing shorter? So the calendars had been made. From my perspective, this year's spring break was off from a number of other Lake County schools, maybe 50-50, I don't know the percentages, but we started hearing from people, staff members who lived in other districts, that the spring breaks were off. I think that's what triggered people to start looking at next year. And in looking at next year, almost everybody was the week after where we were scheduled to be. So those calendars had been set. Nobody was cross-checking those because it had never been an issue, but this year's spring break was I'd say it was an issue, but as everybody looked ahead to next year, they realized it was a major issue if we didn't switch. So the timing wasn't ideal, and we know that, but I think that's why we're getting to this now instead of months ago. Would have been ideal.
And how do we, so decision here tonight one way or the other, but is there a mechanism for us to be a little bit more forward-looking in this?
Yeah, I think moving forward, we will take a look at what other districts are doing. I think that the calendar committee already does a really nice job with that. This just happened to be, everybody used to be in line with us. We didn't change. Other districts started changing, and for whatever reason, everybody changed but us this last time. So I think going forward, we won't be in the same situation again.
And the Regional Office of Education also is releasing a recommended calendar, and they changed their week. The timing of when they made that change versus when we had approved this calendar, because we approved 2 years out, I believe there's some sync, I can't say the word, like we're out of sync because of that timeline. This will be resolved for this year, and the calendar committee has already looked at this for 23-24, so we're not having this issue moving forward.
Okay, that was very helpful because I was going to try to bring up this exact same thing. I couldn't figure out if this is a one-time change or an ongoing change, and when you talked about being off sometimes, it's like, are we actually solving this sustainably? Because I don't want to change this, and then the next year we're off the next year. And so there's some concern about this, and I even was a little torn too. Well, if we're making this long-standing change, why don't we just wait one more year so we don't have the disruption? But what I'm hearing, and this is partly for the community too to understand, is that it's kind of a year-by-year thing, and this change is really just relevant to this upcoming year. It's not something, we'll have to reconsider it the following year too, but it's specifically a targeted change for next year because we're off and we want to connect up, and then we'll just have to really be more cognizant of that decision, reach out to these other school districts so we're better aligned 24, 25, or whatever that school year is. Is that correct? Am I understanding it right?
That is correct, and I just want to reinforce that the 115 staff were not the ones that were coming to the administration. This is no fault for 65 and 67, but this was originating from 65 and 67. Dr. Leali reached out to me to see if I was hearing that. Jeff echoed that we were also hearing it. We had the same issue on Good Friday, to be quite candid, particularly in 67, where we had so many staff requesting the day off that we were not able to essentially provide much, if all, curriculum on that day. And if we were going to run into the same problem with instruction being offered for a whole week in the following school year, that's where I said, okay, now I'm willing to engage in the dialogue, because at first there was a string of no's that came out of my mouth because I didn't want to be in this moment in this chair having these conversations, because I could foresee how hard this would be for families and for staff. So that's when I said put some semblance of a survey together just to get a dipstick test on where people would fall. And when I looked at the results, every category or every subset of population, the highest vote getter was not really the most. I apologize for that as an educated human. I really apologize. I'm getting tired. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll do better.
The English teachers in the room.
My rural Ohio just came out because I'm getting tired. Fatigued, I'll use a better word just so I can make up for that. The one that the people were gravitating was to move the week, whether it was parents or staff. And then I was getting feedback, well, it wasn't really a scientific survey. No, it wasn't. It wasn't designed to be. I just needed some type of feedback to help me make the decision, because I had been saying vehemently, no, no, no. And then and so much so that Aaron released in a statement, I sent emails, we're not changing this. Like, I know people aren't gonna wanna change this. Well, then when you looked at the results, there was an affinity for both staff and parents to make a change, and that's why we're at this table asking for this change.
Okay, any more discussion on this? Tiana, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Vinson?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Dr. Schaubacher?
Abstain.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Mr. Weinberner?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve the ACRA renewal?
So moved.
Second.
You skipped one.
Jeff, do you want to give us just a high-level view of this for those who are?
Sure.
Viewing.
ECRA is a data warehousing system that we've contracted with for a number of years now. And we utilize that to monitor progress both in large groups of students and also individuals. So we're coming back to re-up with them.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions on this renewal? Okay, Tiana. Oh, sorry, Dave.
Not necessarily in the renewal, but similar to how we had the social studies department, I think this could be something interesting, not so much because of the magnitude of money, but just to know, to let us as a board know and the community know, how are we using data to better understand student progression and student development, and how are we, what are these tools that we're using? Because it's, in words it sounds great, but it would be nice to get some examples of how it does work, and it could be a 3-minute presentation.
Yeah, and adding on to that is, what are the alternatives? I'm always interested, is there alternatives? Better ones, or are they more expensive, or, what are you looking for, what you're not getting from this, what you might be getting from something else? So a little bit more holistic. We certainly need a tool like that, and I think Dr. Sasson bases his report on some of the data there. So it would be just helpful to understand what else is out there at some stage.
So one of the things we're going to be bringing, and I mentioned in the education report, so with the metrics, that's the bridge in one of them. So what 67 has is a consistency with map testing and projected growth of students. The high school doesn't have that. We have it individually, and they use it operationally for the kids, but we don't have a bridge to say, how are these kids doing going from 6th to 8th to 10th to 12th? Where's the growth pattern? And we look good from a proficiency perspective on the SATs, but what we miss is that if our student population changed and we were in a different city, we may not stand up as well because the kids would be further behind, and so their proficiency tests. So are we a worse school? And the answer is no. Same teachers, you're just teaching different kids. So the idea is really to say, how are we measuring the growth of the children, see that they're in the band that they are, have other contributing factors, and then on top of that, start to look at other factors, what influences their achievement to achieve that growth, and where are the interventions when they're not achieving that, so we can show that all kids are being taken care of. So similar to the metric of 90% participation in extracurricular, that's fine, but what happens to the other 10%? Are we intervening and checking on all of those? And the answer is yes. How do we show the metric to show that we're doing that? And in the growth with the ECRA, the same type of thing. How do we measure homework assignments? How do we measure retakes of tests and the proficiency of those to handle interventions and grade? Not just to get the grade, but actually to show the growth that we're doing the work we're doing. Because it's happening, there's just a disconnect at the high school level to show from an SAT proficiency level down to the operations. And so I'll share next month, hopefully, what those bridges might be, that we don't get down to Jeff's level, but we start to show directionally what we want and what that is. And so that was where Jordan and I conversation and how we might use some of that. So that I'll share, and then we can debate and how far do we want to take it? How do we tell the story?
I mean, so that's great. I'm really looking forward to this. The other aspect I'm always interested is in, can we look at subpopulations, right? So do we have aggregate that to certain subpopulations which might or might not be performing as well as we wish?
We have obligations now to report to the state subpopulations, so ECRA makes that a lot easier, but we have no choice but to do that work anyway in order to satisfy our reporting obligations, and Illinois did that on purpose to make sure that the overall numbers weren't hiding pockets of underserving. So I think that's a valuable conversation, as long as we're giving Aaron and Jeff our wish list and Jordan our wish list of things we'd like to know. When Patrick presented, I guess it was last month, I couldn't get a handle on, are we still committed to the SAT suite of assessments, or have the last few years with testing becoming less important to college applications and Illinois perhaps wavering on its commitment to the College Board supported suite, are we not now looking at the SAT suite of assessments as the external validator for the kinds of metrics that are being described? You don't have to answer that today, but I'm curious about that as well.
I can definitely get you the depth and breadth, but we are still looking at the SAT suite of assessments, so.
Yeah, but I think that warrants a broader discussion, which needs to be part of the overall strategy discussion, right? So how do we want to get to the portrait of a graduate as a vision point, and is focusing on certain AP or SAT or ACT or whatever it is that a valuable tool to get us there, or is that just a nice to have? So but for tonight, not for tonight.
Okay, anyone else? Tiana, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Schabacher?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Dr. Vincent?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Ms. Zinzer?
Aye.
Mr. Weinberner?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve the 2023-2024 school calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, does anyone have any questions on this? I think it's pretty straightforward, right? Okay. May I have a roll call vote, please, Tiana?
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Dr. Vincent?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Weinberner?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Ms. Zinzer?
Aye.
Dr. Schabacher?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve the textbook purchase?
So moved.
Second.
I know that we discussed this in when the textbooks went on display. Dr. Sasson informed the board of that. Are there any questions or comments on this before we vote? Okay, Tiana, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Zinzer?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Dr. Vincent?
Aye.
Dr. Schabacher?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Mr. Weinberner?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve the human resources items as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Tiana, may I have a roll call vote, please?
I just wanted to quickly comment and thank for the explanation you gave, Jeff. So appreciate that.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Mr. Weinberner?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Dr. Schaubacher,
Aye.
Dr. Vincent,
Aye.
Ms. Zinser.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, I'm going to, yeah, may I have a motion to pull the approval of copier lease and management contract from the consent agenda for discussion and vote independently of the other items listed?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Marcus, I know you had requested that be pulled from the consent agenda. Do you want to initiate? Okay, okay.
Motion and a second on the actual action item, and then they can talk about it. So,
May I have a motion to approve the copier lease and maintenance contract?
You need to vote on the,
Oh, and Tiana didn't give I'm sorry. Tiana, we need a roll call vote on the motion that was made to pull it from the consent agenda.
Ms. Zinser,
Aye.
Dr. Vincent,
Aye.
Mr. Burns,
Aye.
Ms. Davis,
Aye.
Dr. Schaubacher,
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner,
Aye.
Mr. Noble.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve the copier lease and maintenance contract?
So moved.
Second.
Now, I would like to open this up for discussion.
Yeah, so I had asked that we have a brief discussion about this. So Jordan, when I looked at the memo you provided, my understanding was that the levels of our use of copying is consistent over the years, with the exception, of course, of the COVID years, because we weren't in the school. I was just wondering, is that a realistic expectation when planning for this new lease agreement, in regards to that, my experience in the business world, as well as what I'm seeing from, my first year college student now, is that most of the work is now done with electronic files. And is that still a realistic scenario, that we need to have that many copiers with that many copies planned for? Yeah, so
Sure.
that's the main question.
So to address copies planned for, so I included the estimated copy numbers just as a point of reference. If we don't, we're not obligated to any number of copies on this contract. So if our numbers go down, we pay less on the contract. It's a per copy rate. So just to clarify that.
We do pay for the lease of the equipment, so the question is,
yes.
can we have less equipment?
You wouldn't want to have less equipment. So offices need copiers, right? So we have a math department, we have various departments around the building. You need to have equipment and location to support them. Our copiers do, quite honestly, a heck of a lot more than just copy. A significant amount of the work they do is scanning, right? Scanning student documents, scanning assignments that teachers have built so that they can provide them to students. So the actual leasing portion of this contract is providing significantly more services than just copies. So either way, I would be supporting having that amount of equipment in our building. It's status quo. And quite frankly, compared to where we are now, it's, so the recommended monthly lease is $2,700 a month. Currently, we're paying $3,300. So it's a net savings there as well. In terms of the expectations for reducing copies as we move more and more electronic, I think what a lot of school districts see is that copies continue to grow. So quite frankly, in our school district, I am quite proud that we are consistent at this point. It's, there's a lot of talk about going paperless. I think if you talk to any copier vendors, and I've had a lot of conversations with copier vendors over the last couple months, that's part of the equation, but somehow copies still continue to grow for organizations. That's just the paradox we're at these days.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Tiana, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Vincent,
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Dr. Schabacher?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items, including minutes of an executive session March 8th, 2022, minutes of an executive session April 5th, 2022, minutes of a regular meeting and workshop April 5th, 2022, minutes of a joint special meeting April 18th, 2022, minutes of an executive session April 18th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please, Tiana?
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Dr. Vincent?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Dr. Schabacher?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Motion carries.
FOIA requests, Elisa Sinclair in progress, Jared Pipenbank of the Illinois Department of Employment Security in progress, Dan O'Neill request 1 in progress, Dan O'Neill request 2 in progress, Jeff Brinkett complete, Dan O'Neill request 1 complete, Dan O'Neill request 2 complete, Dan O'Neill request 3 complete. We have now reached opportunity for public participation. If anyone would like to address the board on items not on tonight's agenda, we would like to invite you to step to the podium at this time. Seeing none, I will move to announcements. Saturday, May 21st is the LFHS prom at 5:30 p.m. and the red carpet will begin at the high school. I know there is limited viewing for that this year, so please check the district website. Saturday, June 4th is the LFHS graduation at 2 p.m. That will also be at the high school East Campus. Tuesday, June 14th, 2022 will be this board's final meeting of the 2021-2022 school year. That will be in this boardroom at 7 p.m. here at West Campus. May I have a motion to adjourn the Lake Forest Community High School District 115 board meeting for May 10th, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a voice vote, please? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.